on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Howdy folks, I'm Darren, and welcome to 8th Day Chronicles here at Cross Timbers Farm. Glad to have you with us today. I'm accompanied in the field today by about 4 Katahdin ewes, a livestock guardian dog, brown one named Oakley. She's our veteran guard dog, and our guard dog in progress, Waya. And come here, Waya. She is growing like a weed. If you haven't saw her recently, let me spin the camera around and let you see her. She's getting huge. Waya is about 3 months old. Her feet's already bigger than my hands. It's amazing how big she's probably gonna be, or how her growth is looking. If you look at things about her, like her feet size and her leg size and all, she's gonna be a big dog. And you need a guardian dog. When you only have 2 on a farm, they work in tandem, and they need to be able to take care of business when it comes to coyotes and predators, to keep everything out of these pastures and away from these sheep. She's really bonding to these sheep too. But in any event, we are out here in our hayfield today. We're in the main hayfield, and we are inspecting the job these Katahdin sheep are doing for regenerating our soil. Regenerative farming is just common sense. These sheep are regenerating our soil. We bought them for 2 main reasons. There's other reasons too. 2 main reasons is to regenerate our soil, because fertilizer prices over the last several years has gotten so ridiculously high. And these Katahdin sheep will do it for us in a manner better than what we can do out of the back of a spreader, spreading fertilizer on these fields. Now, we still spread lime to bring our soil pH up to the right level. But these sheep in the ruminant manure, if you're familiar with a ruminant animal, a cow or a sheep or a goat, how they have chambers in their stomach and they ferment their food in their stomach and those acids in their stomach, they regurgitate it back up and they chew their cud. I'm sure everybody's heard that term. And then they swallow again. That manure is fantastic. In my opinion, much better than horse manure or anything else you can use. If you're wanting manure on your hayfields to really bring life back to your soil and do a job that nothing else can do, ruminant manure is what you're looking for, in my opinion. And that's what we've got. We've had these Katahdin sheep on this hayfield about a month, maybe a little longer than a month. It's part of our rotational system, and we've kept them here longer because this time of year, barber pole worms and things are really not a concern. We've had them doing the distribution of manure and urine and foot traffic on our hayfields for a certain period of time, then we're gonna move them. Soon as this grass starts a green up phase, and we are in the last week of February, so hay season's right around the corner. So we have had these animals out here doing their thing, and they're doing a good job. I'm gonna do a flyover in a minute and let you just see the great distribution of this manure and urine and foot traffic that's been on this field. I think we're looking at some fantastic results come hay season in our growth. But today we're out here looking at that, looking at the distribution. I'm taking a soil temperature. I've got a soil probe, temperature probe in the ground right over here, and we're gonna look at it. The weather outside here, I'm not talking about in the soil, we have been on a roller coaster through February. Go from 60 degrees for a couple of days, Then here comes a cold front and a bunch of wind and snow, and we fall back off into the teens for highs. I'm talking highs, 20s. And then a week later, it warms back up to 50. And then a couple of days later, it's back down into the 20s. It's just been a roller coaster. 2 days ago, we had a high temperature of 22 and a dust in the snow, maybe an inch. And today I'm out here, you can see the sun. The snow's gone. Yesterday, the sun melted off all that snow. And today, we're approaching 50 degrees. So we're out here today checking our soil temperature. Why are we checking soil temperature? To see when we need to spray pre-emergent for our foxtail and crabgrass problems. And soil temperature will determine when those rhizomes and the seed bank and all that will start germinating. When those seeds and those rhizomes will start spreading when the soil reaches a certain temperature. So today I've got a probe in the ground over here. We're going to look at that in a moment. Then we're going to look around at our field and see what kind of green up starting, how the manure has been spread. And I do have up here in the field, I'll show you, we've got some vaccinating to do on our Katahdin ewes. They're about a month to a month and a half away from lambing. And we need to give those ewes CDT vaccines soon, like in the next few days. So I've set up a corral panel we can bring some feed in and get them into the shed and into that corral situation where we can handle those sheep individually and give them their shot and check FOMACHA scores and check hooves and all that stuff before lambing starts. So let's go take a look at our soil temperature, and then we'll look around at the manure distribution on the field. And I have been in contact with a friend of mine, and he's an agronomist, super knowledgeable about the soil and what needs done in the growth in hay fields and lawns and all that stuff, an expert at it. And hopefully we've got something in the works coming up soon to feature him here on the channel. He's a professional at his trade and he knows his stuff. So he's going to be giving us expert advice on controlling the foxtail problem we had last year in our hay fields. If you've watched the channel very long, you saw that we had a complete disaster with foxtail infestations. Knot-root foxtail, as a matter of factly, the hardest kind to get rid of. So we have consulted with a professional, and we have invited him here to the farm to explain this situation, explain how we're going to combat this, and hopefully all of our Cross Timbers Farm viewers will gain a lot of knowledge from his knowledge, and I can too. So let's go take a look at our thermometer and see what our temperature gauge is up to, and then take a look at some stuff in the hay field and what's going on the farm. Waya is getting huge. To be no older than she is, she's getting big. Loves to play. You know, a puppy. They're all about playtime. She is really bonding with the sheep. Okay, let's walk down here to where about 10 minutes ago I stuck a thermometer into the sod. And let's take a look at it. And this thermometer only reads to 50 degrees, is as low as it will go. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm gonna have an agronomist here soon, and he can clarify all this stuff. Seed germination and rhizome movement and germination, in my understanding, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, starts when the soil or sod temperature gets between 50 and 55 degrees. And this thermometer that I have down in the ground is the only one I've got. I need to invest in a better one that will go lower. But it will read between 50 degrees is the lowest and 300 is the highest. So it's not necessarily a soil thermometer, but it's a very accurate thermometer for what it does read in that range. So, and I'm standing here looking at it now, and it looks like the temperature's probably still in the 40s, or probably around 40. Let me spin the camera around and let you take a look at it. And this is about 5 to 6 inches deep into the soil. There's our thermometer. It's been in the soil for about 10-15 minutes. And I don't know if you can how well it's showing up. If you base it on the gaps between the 10s, 50, 60, 70, 80, right there's 50. That same gap, it's probably about, I would guess, 37, 38 degrees is all the temperatures. Hey, Waya, I would guess that it's in the neighborhood of 37, 38 degrees based on the gaps of these temperatures on the gauge. So we are still a good 10 to 15 degrees below what I would consider the temperature needs to be for successful germination. There is the depth of that probe. It's about 6 inches. I'm going to look into a little better one that'll read lower and not have to guess once it gets below 50. But if you measure the distance between the degrees on this and go down, it will keep going down. It don't just stop at 50. It'll keep going on down, but there's no markings. I would say we're at 38, 39 degrees soil temperature, somewhere right in there. So we're still early enough where no germination's happening. So we can leave these sheep on this hayfield, depending on the weather and the temperatures, but typically speaking, our typical winters and our typical warm up of the spring, I feel we're safe to leave these sheep on this hayfield for another 2 weeks at least. Keep a check on our soil temperatures and then move them. We're planning on rotating these sheep soon anyway for lambing season. Move them into the front part of our pasture where it's steep, where we don't hay, and they're close to the barn where we can keep an eye on them better through the lambing season. We're going to move them there for lambing, and they'll be off this, and we can apply our pre-emergent spray. And I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of talking with the agronomist about sprays and what we're going to do to tackle our foxtail problem. And we have, last year, when we cut around all that foxtail, there was areas up here near our barn where we cut that I did notice some crabgrass coming in too. Hurricane Helene done a number on the soil on our farm. We're starting to see stuff that we hadn't saw in years since Hurricane Helene washed the micronutrients and nutrients and just washed our hayfield so bad. And we're building it back up. These Katahdin sheep's going to do it better than we ever could have out of the back of a spreader.
Really good
on our truck. One reason I decided to go with a few sheep for regenerating our soil versus a cow or two, or a heifer, or a couple of steers. One reason is the size of the manure. We don't have to deal with large cow patties out on this hayfield and busting those cow patties up, having more even distribution. Here's why one reason we went with sheep. Let me spin the camera around and show you the distribution of this manure from sheep ruminant animals and sheep. Pellets. Now, some sheep manure will be in a clump like that, but look at it compared to the size of a cow patty. No comparison. All right, you see some of it here in clumps. Look right here. It's already broken up. Look at the distribution of it. It is perfect. Okay, as we walk along, okay, this is an area up near the water, so they come here a little more often. Okay, let's just walk on out here where it's not so close to water and take a look. The distribution is awesome. Okay, here, hello puppy. Can you see it? It is excellent. What are you doing, pretty puppy? Okay, these sheep are doing a fantastic job. You can see when you get away from the water source. It's still here, look. Okay. Well, you won't hardly leave the camera alone. So as you can see, the distribution is fantastic. These sheep are doing something that we just can't do mechanically. And with the urine especially. Yeah, you can put manure in a manure spreader and go around, but this is putting it spaced out wonderfully at different times. And it's just working phenomenal. We've had such wild temperature swings in February and recently too, that snow melt and then warm up some during the day for a couple days, and then back to freezing ground at night and some during the day too, and snow and melt, that the fields, our hay fields, are so soft right now that if we got equipment out on this field right now, anything heavy, I feel like I could use the ATV and pull a sprayer or do something with the ATV. But if I bring the tractor out on these fields, the soil right now, especially the topsoil, is so soft and so wet that it would tear our fields all to pieces. So if you're out inspecting your hay fields and stuff this time of year, and your soil gets like ours this time of year where it's very wet from snow melt and then freezing and thawing, warming up for a couple days, then freezing again for a couple days, perfect for frost seeding at the right time of year. But it's very detrimental to have heavier equipment out on your hay fields this time of year. So we're going to wait, and before we do any pre-emergent spraying, our soil temperature is 38, 39 degrees, somewhere right in there. and based on what you saw, that I saw on that gauge. So we're going to wait a couple of weeks to where we can move these Katahdin sheep off this hayfield and put them where they're in the rotational paddock where they're going to go for lambing, and they'll be there for a little bit till they lamb. And then the manure will be done on this field, the foot traffic, well worth every penny. We bought these sheep for 2 reasons, I said earlier, and I think I got going down another rabbit hole. We bought them for 2 reasons. The number 1 reason was to regenerate this soil. After Hurricane Helene just devastated it with the creeks running through it, 30 plus inches of rain. And these sheep, with their foot traffic and their urine and their manure, putting this microbiome back in this soil, bringing life back to this soil, and it's working. The second reason we bought Katahdin sheep is I love loin lamb chops. I love them. So does my family. We're going to be raising some of our own meat on this farm. It's a win-win situation. But our ewes should be due sometime mid-April. So it's time, it's almost March, it's time very soon in the next week or so to be giving them their CDT vaccines or shots and checking FAMACHA scores, checking hooves, just checking their overall health, which they look real good, but we're going to give them a hands-on examination. And in order to do that, you can see we have our run-in shed, which the sheep's got really used to. I can take a pan of some feed, alfalfa pellets and a little sweet feed mix, shake it in a bowl and carry it in there, and they'll go running in there. They love sweet feed. We don't give it to them except for when we need to move them, but they love it. I can take a pan of sweet feed in there, shake it, and they'll everyone run in. And this is the same panels we use to make our livestock trailer. And once they're in, just close the gate and lock it, and they're in there. No way out. And we can handle them one by one, send them out the gate when we're done examining the one and doing whatever we need to do, handling that sheep, and one by one send them out. And they're easy to catch and handle in here. So these panels have proven to be fantastic so far. We've already used it like this once, catching them in here and taking a look at them. Not long after we bought them and we brought the sheep home, we put up the panels just like this. Once they got used to going in it and got a little more used to us, and we caught them in here and examined them, and it worked fantastic. So we'll just be doing the same thing again here very soon. And these panels was worth every penny we paid for them. Been up here in the test plot for the last few minutes, and I checked the soil temperature up here too. Exact same, about 38 degrees. The best I can figure, measuring the distance between those temperatures. And we're just not ready yet for anything to even really think about germinating. So we've got a couple of weeks, I think, before we even start getting close to that temperature in the soil. But I've been up here inspecting our pasture where we're going to move the Katahdin sheep in the next movement over onto this area, and they should stay there till they lamb or very close thereby. And we have been working to get our ram pump up and running. I've replaced some parts on our ram pump that I felt was maybe getting a little wore out. I put a new swing valve on it and have got some new piping to attach to where it broke during the hurricane. It was laying on the ground and some tree roots uprooted and took it up with them and broke the PVC drive pipe. And I've got new pipe ready to go back on that, getting things ready because we're going to be able to start that ram pump up probably within the next month. And it'll be there when we move the sheep back to that area, so we'll have water there, so we don't have to carry or haul water. that is a pain in the rear if you've never had to haul water. And we're going to do everything possible to keep from doing that. I've been over here in this section of our pasture. It's really steep. This is the section I clipped back about a month ago, and it's looking really good. It's about ready for the sheep to move on it. They were on it for about a week at one point when we first got them. Not long. The manure that was on here is basically, you don't even see it no more. The snow and the rain, it's gone into the soil. So this is a fresh paddock. We'll be moving them over here on a couple of weeks. We have a shed here that we can position for our rotational grazing fence where they'll be perfect in here. And then when the warm up finally happens and the lambing's over, we can move them back into the farther pastures, rotational fence that off, and have our ram pump running, have water there. So everything's looking really good. If you are a hay producer and you haven't been out in your hay fields recently, go take a look. Go walk around, take a look. Now's the time, or actually you're late if you wanted to lime. But if you haven't, it's better late than never. Go ahead and start liming, getting your things in order for hay season. And speaking of hay and sheep, we've had these Katahdin sheep since around Thanksgiving last year. And it's now almost March, last week of February. Guess how many bales of hay we fed? We went and bought hay. I went on a frantic hunt for hay because we ended up with these sheep sooner than I thought we were. And I felt we needed the hay in the barn, security for those animals to feed them when they need it or want it or when the weather gets bad or whatever. So we bought some square bales of hay, and it's decent hay. It's not premium hay, but it's good hay. We bought square bales, that's all I could find. And guess how many of those square bales since we bought those sheep that we fed? Can you guess? I'm shocked. These sheep are nothing like goats. When we had our dairy goat herd here, we would have probably already, in that amount of time, went through 50 bales at least, maybe a little more, especially when it snowed, because we've had quite a bit of snow this winter. None really deep, but this snows every few weeks, just an inch or two here, there, and yonder. We would have fed a lot of hay already for goats. With these sheep, in that same amount of time, guess how many bales of hay we fed? One. And they ain't ate all that. It's still part of it in the hay feeder in that shed. They've ate about half of it, and it was one of our mini round bales, the last one we had left. We fed it. Now they did eat it, and we put, because it was only a partial bale, and we put about a half of another square bale in that hay feeder with our mini round bale, mixed it to get them to eat it. And they've ate about half of it. They would rather be out here grazing as to be trying to eat hay. They don't want to eat hay. They want to graze. And man, I'm telling you, if you've got Katahdin sheep and you raise them on pasture, don't give them grain. Only give them grain when you want to move them. Now, this is personal opinion. Have them on pasture. Raise them on pasture. Keep them on pasture. You won't hardly have to feed any hay. It's amazing, at least here in our area. With the winter we've had, and we've had old-time winters been back. We've had single-digit temperatures, snow, cold rain, freezing, thawing, snow. We fed, if you take that partial mini round bale and maybe almost half of a flake of a square bale, that might equal 1 1/4 bales. And they've only ate about half that. And I felt they ate that when it was pouring the rain or the snow was pretty deep and they ate some of it. Other than that, if there's only a couple inches of snow on the ground, they won't even look at hay. They get out here in these pastures and they push the snow back with their feet, they push the snow with their nose, and they graze. Very, very efficient animals on our farm. And I'm telling you, buying hay, buying grain, and we're going to be saving probably our first cut of hay this coming year for our own use. And I don't know if we're going to need it. I'm going to put it in the barn, and by next spring, this time next year, if we still have 100 bales in the barn, I'll sell it then. But the hay we have in the barn that I bought, it's pretty good hay. Probably in another month, when things start greening up, I'm probably just going to sell it. I don't need it. We'll probably hang on to just a few bales to use for bedding or whatever, chicken nest boxes and all that type of stuff. There's no need to keep it. I'll get rid of that hay and just sell it. I'll take a little bit of a loss on it and sell it. And but it's been stored inside dry. It's pretty good hay, and I'll just turn around and sell it with the knowledge to whoever buys it that did not come off this farm. We bought it because we were not anticipating needing it, the circumstances. And it's not our hay. We bought it and we don't need it now, and we're just gonna pass it on. So we'll do the same thing this summer and next fall. We'll put one cut of hay in our hay room for our use, and what we have it used by next spring, we'll just sell it. Thanks for being with us today here on the farm as we talked about pre-emergent herbicides. And speaking of that, my original plan for pre-emergent herbicide to deal with the foxtail and some crabgrass was Prowl H2O. And I still think Prowl is probably a good option. I think I found a better option. As I said earlier, I've been talking to a friend of mine who's an expert in this field, and between our conversations, I think I have found a different product. Not positive that's what we're going to go with, but I'm leaning that way, called Resilon, I believe is how it's called. Resilon pre-emergent herbicide, I think is what we're going to go with. I think it's going to fit our situation with this knotroot foxtail better than just an annual foxtail, because we do have the bad kind of foxtail here. We have knotroot foxtail. And stay with us in a video coming up soon. Whenever this soil gets to the temperature or close thereby where we need to start putting our pre-emergent spray out, I'm going to invite my friend who's an agronomist to the farm, and hopefully he'll be on video, and he can describe what we need to do to our soil. And if you're combating foxtail, crabgrass, non-desirable grasses in your hay fields, stay with us. It's going to be a good video with his expert analysis of what we need to do on our farm and what you can do on your farm if you're experiencing a lot of the same problems. Thank you for being with us. I really appreciate it. And I pray God blesses you and your family. And I pray y'all have a fantastic day.